Jay garu malla lagout ayyara untara?
Yes, sir.
Right. Premnath garu. Yes, sir. Friends, good evening, all of you. You are welcome to this virtual session. In fact, a 2-day virtual workshop on this day and tomorrow. Today, the topic is data extraction from accounting standards or accounting softwares. In fact, it is data extraction from accounting softwares to prepare clause 44 of Form 3CD. The resource persons for today's session are CA D. Premnath sir and CA Kottapalli Vijay Srinivas garu. Both of them have already joined. Friends, before we start, let me play the motto song. Give me a second to play the motto song.
येष सुप्तेषु जागृति येष सुप्तेषु जागृति कामं 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 कामपुरुषो पुरुषो निर्मिमाणः निर्मिमाणः तदेव शुक्रं तदेव शुक्रब्रह्मा तद्ब्रह्मा तदेवामृतमुच्यते तस्मिन् लोकः शतः सर्वे तदूनात्यति कश्चन एतद्द्वैत 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 एतद्द्वैत.
Now I request the chairperson to give her opening remarks.
This person, CAD Premnath garu and CA Kottapalli Vijay Srinivas garu, colleagues at Managing Committee, and past chairman of Vijayawada branch, and other fellow members joined for today's meeting. A very good evening to one and all. I welcome you all for the VCM on the topic data extraction required to prepare class 44 from different accounting softwares. As you all know, as per circular number 5 of 2021, which is released on 25th March 2021, class 44 of Form 3CD is made mandatory for the tax audits filed on or after 1/4/2022. It requires the taxpayer to provide breakup of expenditure made to GST registered entities and unregistered entities, non-registered entities. So the reporting requirement requires compilation and arrangement of huge data, and the sudden introduction of such class, particularly in the mid of financial year, having implication of voluminous data, it really caused immense hardship to go through the tax auditors as well as the SSC, more particularly when the accounting records are not kept in the proper manner. So utilizing technology tools like pivot tables and other equivalents can definitely help us to save the time and ensure accuracy. So by teaching these methods, our resource persons, Premnath garu, Vijay Srinivas garu, will undoubtedly help you to save that valuable time. Only 15 days, 14 days are left to meet the tax audit time due date. So please utilize this opportunity of learning new methods and save your precious time. Thank you, Vanenda.
Thank you, madam, for those words. Friends, before our speakers take over the session, let me say a few words about our speakers for today's session. CA Vijay Srinivas Kottapalli is a postgraduate in commerce and is a fellow chartered accountant based out of Hyderabad. He is practicing for more than 20 years. He is also a certified information systems auditor and also a certified fraud examiner and an insolvency professional. He has completed various certifications of ICAI such as anti-money laundering, diploma in information systems audit, FAFD, concurrent audit, Ind AS, indirect taxation, among others. He has also done a certificate course in cyber security. His services are in the area of information system audit, forensic audit, fraud investigation, fraud and risk management services, and data analytics. He is presently Secretary of ACFE Hyderabad chapter. CA Premnath is presently partner of Messrs. C. Ramchandran and Co. Chartered Accountants, Hyderabad. CA Premnath has handled many internal and external and forensic audits of large manufacturing, infrastructure, software, PSU companies. He has experience in conducting various bank audits, be it central statutory or branch or concurrent or revenue. He represents at the Income Tax Department in the aspects of international taxation, transfer pricing. He has designed and reviewed standard operating procedures as a part of SAP implementation audits and has a steady review and audit of internal financial controls of PSUs, listed and large manufacturing and private limited companies. He has carried out forensic assignments of MNCs and large manufacturing companies, and he is a peer reviewer at ICAI, and he has spoken at various seminars on various topics of e-filing, XML, XBRL, audit under CBS, GST, among others. He is also a visiting faculty at Income Tax Department, Hyderabad Staff College, GST, Central and State Government, Hyderabad on GST Fraud Analytics, C&AG Staff Training at Hyderabad, National Institute of Rural Development on Tools and Techniques of Internal Audit, also Central Vigilance Officers on Digital Forensics, National Police Academy at Hyderabad, IDBI, Union Bank, Indian Bank, Staff Training Institute, among others. Friends, on this brief note about the speakers, now I hand it over to the two speakers to speak at their convenience. What do you say?
Thank you. Thank you, Kishore Garu and Madam. Thank you very much for this fantastic opportunity to interact with Vijayawada branch members. So the topic is of more relevance today, if not from the tax audit point of view, from the configuration of accounting system, it is very important. Then the other one is, yes, total India, I can say most of the Indian chartered accountants who are doing tax audit are more or less have decided to give a disclaimer or whatever comment they wanted to give it. They want to give a comment because we all know most of the cases, the clients are not in a position to share the data in the format in which they wanted. The only alternative we have is to give a disclaimer. The impact of disclaimer, we don't know. Probably everyone feels that there can be a scrutiny or whatever. But if all the 1.5 lakh chartered accountants who are carrying out tax audit gives a disclaimer, or say 95% of them gives a disclaimer, will all the cases be taken for scrutiny? If so, what is the impact is one issue. Be that as it is, but that's a different story altogether. Whether the department has a capability to process such a volume of disclaimer or such a volume of disclaimed audits as a scrutiny, it's a different, but they also have a materiality concept. So they will pick up most prominent ones for the scrutiny. Okay, that's a different story altogether, but it's quite challenging. So having said it is challenging, one side of the coin, we say it is a challenging. The other side of the coin, it opens a door for us to create a professional opportunity. Yeah. Having said a door opens to create a professional opportunity, many of them say, ఈ పనికే పైసలు ఇయ్యడు, ఇంకొక కొత్త ఆపర్చునిటీకి ఇంకెక్కడ పైసలు ఇస్తాడు. సో దిస్ ఇస్ ది జనరల్ థింకింగ్, బట్ it is the inefficiency of my billing should not be commented upon. Rather, people are making opportunity to make billing. So if I am inefficient to make a bill, I should not say that the department is creating hurdles. Rather, they are creating professional opportunities to the chartered accountant. And this is possible only when we, all the chartered accountants, stand together. And yes, can we stand together? I say yes, we can stand together. How can we stand together? If we are all using a common platform, yes, we can stand together. Like all the chartered accountants who practice in one of the big fours, let me name like Deloitte or KPMG or EY or PwC or GT or any of such big fours or multinational firms, they all stand together on one platform. So can we also stand together on a single platform? The thing is, we are not creating any single platform to stand or get connected onto that. And hence we are not united, and hence the clients are taking opportunity out of it. That's a very big story. Let's not go into it. Let's come back to our discussion today. I say disclaimer is very easy, but there is an impact on the other side. Let us discuss about it. There is a disclaimer is very easy, but there is a other impact both on the auditor and on the client. That's a different story altogether. But we can exploit this situation. If not this year, next year we can make out some work onto that. That is what Vijay Srinivas sir will be exploring, and he will be guiding us how best we can configure systems so that not only for the clause 44, but for most of the clauses, the reporting should be more or less automatic. Okay, let me share. I just made a formal PowerPoint only in the evening. Since you all know we are all busy in this, I didn't spend much time on preparing a formal PowerPoint, but wherever required, I'll be taking you to the original source document. Like guidance note is a source document. Then the taxation audit quality review board, which is constituted recently, they have also given one document on the tax audit common errors we are carrying out. I will just open that and then start reading out wherever required. So let me make my presentation, whatever formally I made it. So I think I'm able to share the presentation.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. So what I say before we all go into this, let us understand what is profession. Profession is generally defined as any type of work which needs a special or particular skill, often one which is respected because it involves a high level of education and skill. I think all the participants here will agree that the chartered accountant profession is high level of education and skill. The reason why I say this is most of the FRRB, Financial Reporting Review Board, or Audit Quality Review Board, or NEFRA, all of them, they comment that auditors are generally, there are exceptions, they say that the wordings used are in support of a client. Like say, for example, if in Caro fixed asset register is not there, Caro says whether fixed asset register is maintained, yes or no. It only wants yes or no. But the chartered accountants, over the period of time, they have invented new English and started saying fixed asset register is being maintained. Being is present tense, maintained is past tense. So the reader doesn't understand. If at all the regulator wants to ask, we just try to skip out. But these are very much highlighted from our old practices. This is very much highlighted now, and then the departments or the regulators are looking at us from a precise answer, say whether this is yes or no. That is one issue. Why I am saying here is, we say that as stated by the management, the physical stock is valued as stated by the management. If I have to say, if I as a chartered accountant have to say that the valuation of inventory is as stated by the management, realization of debtors is as stated by the management, loans and advances are recoverable as stated by the management, then where is the question of high level of education and skill? This is what regulators are questioning. Recently, in one of the meetings with the SEBI chairman, he was saying, he was reading out in a public meeting, he is reading out the meaning of audit from a dictionary and saying audit means examination of records. Means examination of records is to evaluate, critically examine the records. Records is an evidence. Evidence is not self-generated. Evidence which stands to the test of courts, which is independent. So in such a high level of skill and education required, I am saying we cannot use these loosely ended words like as stated by the management, I have relied on. All these things are going out, and FRRB document, which has 4 volumes, Institute has also highlighted these kind of things to be avoided. And hence I'm saying, I'm asking you to recognize that the chartered accountants are skill and education. We cannot just rely on the tally, or we cannot just rely on a paper. The self-written vouchers and all cannot be relied on. To highlight that, I'm just taking this time. And if you can just look at this Supreme Court's judgment on role of chartered accountant. Yeah. So when a case has been filed in the Supreme Court with respect to asking the tax practitioners also a right to carry out the tax audit, because they are anyhow representing the clients, they said, why can't I also do this? There was a case, first it went into the Rajasthan High Court, and from there the advocates in Rajasthan High Court, they have filed a case. They're saying, give me a chance to carry out the tax audit, because anyhow I am making representations in High Court. And that has went up to the Supreme Court. Now the Supreme Court says chartered accountants are, by reason of their training, have a special aptitude in the matter of audits. It is reasonable that they who form a class by themselves, that's what I read earlier, should be required to audit the accounts of business, whatever 10 lakhs, 40 or 2 crores, 5 crores, whatever it is, in any given year. There is no material on record, and indeed, in our view, there cannot be that an income tax practitioner has the same expertise as chartered accountants in the matter of accounts. For the same reasons, the challenge under Article 19 must fail, and it must be pointed out that these tax practitioners are still entitled to be as authorized representatives, but not as a tax auditors. Meaning, the view that I have taken here, we have just understood profession is none other. The the Supreme Court also holds that we are of a special skill and education. Considering this, we need to carry out the audit of any clause, not only this. So when you may say this is a huge task, when it is a huge task, whether the fees that is paid by the client commensurate with the time and efforts that I make, then the answer to that is the starting para of ICAI Code of Conduct. It says we are exclusively working for the public interest and not exclusively to satisfy the needs of an individual clients or employing organization. Therefore, code contains requirements and application material to enable professional accountants to act in the public interest. So I say there are today's point of discussion. I am just taking two aspects. One aspect is that we are professionals with knowledge and skill. Number two, we should act in the public interest with the application material. What is application material? Is standards on ethical, standards of technical, standards of professional. Ethical standards is the code of conduct, independence, integrity, objectivity, and so on. Technical standards are all those accounting standards, all those GST Act, Income Tax Act, Sale of Goods Act, whatnot, all those acts. And professional standards are all our auditing and SQC standards needs to be applied. So I again reiterate, we are starting this session with two objectives. One, we are skilled professionals. When you compare with 130 crores of population, the 1.5 lakh chartered accountants carrying out the tax audit or elite group, we cannot be compared with 130 lakhs of chartered accountants. Then second one is we are acting in the public interest. So with these two things, I'm just moving into the subject. So we have, I said the case example for violation, the DC case with respect to non-reporting of tax audit under 44AB of 40A3 cash payments, or sorry, expenditure of more than 20,000 in those days, otherwise than by cross-check. Client accepted the violation and paid the tax. So when it happens, the respondent has failed to bring the records of working papers in relation to software used for tracing of cash payments. So further, no documents for test checks conducted by him for verification of cash above payments. He is professional negligent under clause 7 and 6 and 7 of Schedule 2, wherein professional negligence is established. So he was taken for task, meaning what I'm trying to emphasize here is our errors in reporting is already known to the department. And that is what we need to recognize today. Like say, for example, today, if in my tax audit report, clause 34 relating to the tax audit, if I am making an error, the department will instantly find out that my reportings in clause 34 of tax audit, TDS reportings are erroneous because those details are already with the department today. They are only counter checking what I have reported. Say, for example, TDS returns are already filed, ETDS returns are filed. Even if ETDS returns are not filed, because of GST and income tax department integration, the services and goods data is already with the GST department, which can be shared with the income tax department instantly, and it is being done today. So the department is aware client wise, what are all the services procured, what are all the goods procured. So for each kind of service, what is the kind of tax to be deducted is already there with the department. Now, whether he has paid tax or not, the tax challans and the ETDS returns, the GST returns of 2A versus the ETDS returns are already undergoing matching and reconciliation in the department. So if I fail to report this, now the DC case will report it. And there is a circular, there is instructions to the department, wherever violations, wherever misreporting is done, they have asked the department to raise a DC issues to the department. That is one issue. In the same way, the bankers were also in RBI has instructed the bankers also the same thing, that you report to the DCs. Okay, that apart, the point what I'm again and again emphasizing here is that we need to have a special skill, number one. Number two, we need to use technology, because department has already gone into technologies. Like in one of the meetings in the ICAI New Delhi, with respect to the education system and all, one of the chartered accountant expert member was saying, today the world is moving, business and departments are moving with Zen X, next generation technologies are used by the department and business people, whereas the chartered accountants who deal with the compliance are not even 10% of the technologies they are using, and they are getting suffocated. And that is the reason why there are so many failures. Okay, that apart, let's move on. So I just say here, what is the challenges today that we are facing is conscious documentation will only protect, else digital footprints prove non-compliance. Like, I said, GSTR 2A is sufficient for the income tax people to decide whether my taxation TDS has been properly done or not. Integrated information to digital footprints, challenges and opportunities. As I said, that we can use the same digital footprints to prepare clients' statement of accounts. Then you may say, as an auditor, can I prepare it? Yes, if I am an auditor, let me outsource this to my friend chartered accountant so that he will prepare and I will audit. Both of us will share. That's what I said. We need to come together. Okay. And there is surveillance through the data integration. Too much of surveillance through the data integration is going on. The customs data is integrated. Land records data is integrated. The height of the building is measured through the 3D Google technology. They are measuring the height of the building and are trying to find out this much of square feet has been built, what can be the value of the rental, and so on. And non-compliance to ethical and technical and professional standards can easily be through technology. Weak firm policies and procedures of unstructured, and weak quality standards, client attitude and behavior and competition is another challenge we are facing, be that as it is. So let's understand the configuration issues. So GST audit or income tax audit, configuration plays a dominant role. In a very big corporate where 20,000 crores is the turnover, in that where they are using SAP, we are saying that, okay, Tally is not having proper configuration. Please understand, SAP is not maintained. You can't say SAP is an automatic. Unless you configure, it will not become automatic. So I'll just discuss few things in the configuration so that it will be easy for us to understand when Vijay Srinivas sir will take us. So due to SAP configuration issues, GST compliance is presently, I mean, this is 2 years old data, carried out manually without predefined set of processes. Like, GSTR 3B and one GSTR 1 is prepared without predefined formats, without by using a ZGS star. I'm talking about the GST SAP. Z is the report starting with Z indicates that it is a defined user-defined reports. So the user-defined reports are erroneous. Total filing will be erroneous. So you need to understand the configuration before you carry out the GST audits. So ITC is not captured or not availed properly, and they are using manual system of capturing the ITC. So because of that, the GST audit or GST issues or GST compliances has become a big issue in 20,000 crore company. And you can understand where Tally stands. Now, what are those issues? Let me highlight here. Tax codes are designed only on consideration of rate and type of tax without taking into consideration blocked, ineligible, eligible, ITC. This is the issue even for us now. So implication is there is no specific way to identify the ineligible input tax credits, results in excess or short claiming of ITC. So the tax codes, if you can minutely look at this, 8E refers to credit available. You can just see IGST 28% CRS credit available. If you use this 8E while you are making a purchase, while the accountant is making a purchase, when he applies this 8E, then automatically the 28% slab will, for all the purchases made with this code, automatically credit is taken. Like say, for example, a car is used, a car is purchased, car with 28%, car, because this is a manufacturing company, not involved in the car running business, and hence it has to be disallowed. In such case, for all those motor vehicle invoices, if 8K is used, wherein it says NC or no credit. If this is used, automatically the system will not allow to claim the GST on 8K purchases. Now, the point what I am trying to highlight here is the total GST applicability. Like you have various rates, you have allowed, not allowed, blocked, composite, unregistered. If at the time of preparing the records, if such a detailed process is enabled, the reporting will become automatic. Yes, if a client comes on September 30th, 11 o'clock in the night, we cannot do it. I do understand, but we have challenges. That's a different story. But the challenges, I said, we have to make it as an opportunity. So this is how, if this client belongs to me, then I will call my friend and then, Are, you do the configuration, I will do the audit. Let us share. So if such kind of things are there, yes, we can carry out. The point what I am trying to say here is, this configuration, if you can do it, then it will become an automatic to a larger extent. Yes, there are still challenges. If a provision is made, what to do? If it is capital expenditure, revenue expenditure, a whole lot of things are there in reporting. Yes, I do understand, but that doesn't become a huge part. That's only a small part of it. So why I'm saying this is, if 1 lakh and odd chartered accountant decide to give a disclaimer, you know the way in which the department is looking at the chartered accountants today. So if majority of the chartered accountants are giving a disclaimer, will they think that we are incapable of doing this? If you look at the preamble of tax audit, it says the tax audit is introduced to help the department to carry out the audit, meaning the chartered accountant should step into the shoes of income tax officer. That's the reason why they are put it. So in that case, so we need to use our skill and then as I said, we are working on the public interest. So we need to travel extra mile, if not for the sake of money, for the sake of public interest. Okay. Having said this, how to raise these issues, our Vijay Srinivas will be talking about this. Then I'll just complete this in next 5-10 minutes, and then I'll hand it over to Vijay Srinivas. Then, so again, the income tax TDS deductions with respect to the class 35 or 34. So if in Tally, if you are able to use that TDS configurations properly, then the reporting will become easy for us. I'm talking about SAP. Even SAP is not properly. That's what I'm trying to say. Many of them feel that SAP means it is automatic. CBS means automatic. We know how CBS is automatic over a period of time. We have understood in the same way. Now you can just see the tax codes here. The GST tax codes are not assigned here. If it is not assigned here, all the reports will go for a task. And if you start using the codes here, like the codes what I have stated here, the codes what have been stated here, if you are able to highlight it here while generating the invoice, then automatically reporting becomes easy for us. Then these are all various types of codes that you have, very detailed codes. Selection of proper GST tax code for proper compliance as a preventive control, which will make our work very easy. And as many as 448, you can use it. You can go in detail, and this is a one-time exercise. You can do it for one client, and then that's how the Vijay Srinivas sir will demonstrate. If you are able to do this configuration for one client, can I use it for multiple clients? Yes, Vijay Srinivas sir will demonstrate. Yes, you can use it for multiple clients. You can use it. But yes, you need to spend some time. You need to spend some money on the tools also. But that money is not a big issue. Okay, having said, let's move on. Right. This is what the breakup of expenditure, total expenditure of entities registered or not registered under the GST. This is, we all know that the total expenditure incurred. So item wise, you have to talk about it. Then relating to goods and services which are exempt. So when you say which are exempt, so the expenditure which is chargeable or not chargeable, I said, this kind of classification, if you are able to do it, item wise expenditure, if you are able to match it, yes, you can automatically track it. Then entity, relating to entities falling under composition scheme. Now, if you are able to map your expenditure with the supplier, and if a supplier is coded with composite or regular, then this is possible. So all your suppliers needs to be tracked whether he is a composite dealer or a regular dealer. If you can do that, you can map that. Then relating to other registered is taxable, wherever it is taxable. Then wherever it is taxable, expenditure with respect to the taxable. So suppliers, you know whether they are registered or not, and those registered suppliers versus expenditure, the day book will capture it. You can just see how the Vijay Srinivas will demonstrate it, and then the total of it. And wherever it is unregistered, at the time of registration itself, you will know. At the time of creating itself, we will know whether he is registered or not. On a constant visual, you can go on upgrading the registered or unregistered status, because initially at some point of time he is registered and becomes unregistered, may become registered, and vice versa. Accordingly, you can segregate the accounting system. But mind it, this is all not possible when a client walks in on 30th September or the last week. If that is the case, he is also in trouble and we are also in trouble. Okay, and this is not a new thing, because this is there in the statute for the past 2 years. Because of COVID, they have been postponing it, and they made it very clear it is applicable for the 22 financial year, and we would have already communicated it. However, whatever it is, still that moment, till the last moment, we don't follow up this. That's a different story. Okay. Now, to carry out this exercise, if you can get the data in this format, expenditure head, the name of the entity, there are certain expenditures which you don't create a vendor for it. Direct purchases are made. So wherever you are making a direct purchases without creating a vendor, then it is a big challenge. In that case, what you have to do is, wherever we have to bifurcate the expenditures into two, which are registered, anyhow registered and unregistered, and the other classification. First classification is registered and unregistered. The second classification is whether it is chargeable or not chargeable. And wherever it is petty payments, you know, like say, for example, the staff welfare, majority of the staff welfares will be blocked or petty. So we need not bother much about those expenditure heads. So if you can spend some time on that and then prepare it, then it's okay. So if it is registered, those suppliers, entity, then value of debited account, and then and so on and so on. So this, I think, yes, I do understand the challenges. Let me figure out, 80 to 90% of the chartered accountants are involved in bookkeeping and audit. As the bookkeeping goes on, the audit considerations are well taken care, let us presume. That is the way in which it goes on. But the code of conduct, the ICAI code of conduct, is entirely against to this system of working. And it is known to everyone. That's a different story again altogether. Having that, but we need to arrange things in such a way that one chartered accountant independent carries out this, and we have to carry out our role. If that is possible, then this is possible. Okay, next. The various issues that are coming up is the meaning of total expense during the year, whether capital expenditure would be an expenditure. So we have, this is one issue, whether reimbursement of expenditure to the buyer. Yes, reimbursement also, it's an expenditure. By the supplier would form part of, yes, like say, for example, I as a chartered accountant travel from in a train or in an aircraft, and I'll claim the bill. And when I claim the bill as a reimbursement, anyhow, there is a GST on it. And you forget about the flight bill, GST on the flight bill. You only consider the chartered accountant's bill, which has a flight bill on that. Then similarly, if the payment is done in 1 year and the bills are received in the next year, what would be the repercussions in clause 44? Yes, if expenditure payment is done in the previous year, if the expenditure is in the current year, you have to account it. So anyhow, the prior current year expenditure, if you are making it, you have a bill based on that. If it is accounted it and you have a bill, you can anyhow classify it. Whether advance payment is done, would be required to be reported. Advance payments are anyhow not into the scope because they say expenditure. Similarly, you have how to collect the information on expenses with regard to the GST dealers. If from 2A, 2B, 3B, then what if the assessee vendor is not filing the if the returns are not filed, then we have nothing. We only have to state in our report. How to find composite dealers? Yes, the way in which you create the accounts should help you. What if GST number of person receiving bill is issued and registration was cancelled? That is not for us, because at the time of buying, if he is registered, yes, he is registered. So what if the credit note is issued issued as a post balance sheet? We can't talk about those. So we'll consider only whatever is debited. So how to work out figures for total payments? We are not talking about the total payments. We are only talking about the expenditure that is incurred and debited to the P&L. Accordingly, we can carry out. So these are the possible disclaimers. Before we go into the disclaimer, I'll come back. I'll ask the Vijay Srinivas to take it up, and then we'll come back to the disclaimer point of view. I think Vijay Srinivas sir is on.
Yeah, thank you. I think there is a technical glitch for muting myself. Good evening all, and thank you very much Vijayawada branch of SARC of ICAI for giving me this opportunity. And I believe maybe 6th or 7th time, of course, earlier was in more of bank audit season. So off the record, we are getting into this tax audit season. So that's the reason they've included this. And as Pranav sir was mentioning, this class doesn't require much of technology per se in terms of exporting or importing, because very few information, very few classes it requires. Though even in a consolidated manner, it doesn't even require something like a transaction-wise kind of information. But what makes it challenging is the kind of configuration what client is following. Like if the client is just following a journal entry kind of thing, or a normal accounting package where it is not properly configured in terms of GST or whatever. So that's the challenge what we'll be facing, and that's not impact not only the class 44, for that matter, any of the 3CD clauses. And who knows, as I was discussing with Prema sir, who knows, this is just a beginning. They might even include other aspects of GST and even other aspects of company relevant provisions also as part of books. Now that you know that next year onwards for private limited companies or certain category of companies, the timestamp of accounting entries are also to be mandated, though they have included for the current year only, they later on postponed. So we don't know what kind of challenges. So everything comes back the way we configure our accounts. Though we say that we are an auditor and we don't get into the roles of accounting, but we know the kind of involvement what our staff will be called for in terms of configuration of accounts or helping out the client in terms of setting up that particular ERP. And majority of the accounting, clients will be using applications like Tally or those kind of Focus or those kind of applications. So what we thought is we'll focus on this particular, though we are not promoting either Tally or Excel for that matter, any of those tools what I'm going to display, but we need to take a lead somewhere, probably take a hint out of it and try to improvise. So just I'll share my disclaimer before I proceed any further. So just to mention, this is about my views, whatever I'm expressing. I'm not endorsing any of the products, nor ICAI is responsible for those. The view what we are sharing in terms of the practices what we follow by ourselves. And also somewhere we have to get into the role of configuration as well as a professional accountant. So that's the reason I'll be sharing those various tools. Okay. Now to start off with, let me share the entire screen so that I can shuffle between various screens. Yes. Now, as I was saying, the way we configure our Tally is the challenge. Like most of the time we come across a Tally being configured as just a debit and credit, with very few configuration in terms of balance sheet items, or for that matter P&L, where we say direct expenses, indirect expenses kind of thing. But minutely, if I have to generate so-called clauses of 3CD related information, especially clause 44, it requires even much more. I mean, just to get into the screen of the guidance note what Intuit has issued, many windows are open. So the kind of guidance note, they've given detailedly what is to be excluded and what is to be included and all that stuff. But one point which has crossed and attracted my requirement is, my focus is, if you see one particular place, when it comes to those exempted or composition kind of levies, we seldom capture those GST numbers of those suppliers, because we consider that anyway it's composite. So there is no need of capturing the GST, nor we consider saying that it's an exempted, so there's no need to capture GST. But even for those areas also, the GSTN is required for the reason that it becomes so difficult at the time of compilation of clauses of 3CD, or for that matter, even 9 GST or 9 or 9C kind of thing. So that's where the configuration of Tally plays an important role. So I'll be taking you through a couple of tools which are available apart from the accounting package of Tally, or for that matter in Excel also, how best we can utilize. So just I'll be going in slow pace because as I said, this is more thought of as a workshop. So just to go through each of the screen, kindly pay attention. Okay. Now, when it comes to the configuration, I mean, why the best part of the Tally, if I have to compile the relevant to GSTR, clause 44 of 3D is your GSTR2. Because if you all remember, this was the actual inception when the draft act has come into place. There was a timestamp saying that this is first to be filed, and then will be approved by the client, then approved by the vendor, then again GSTR to be filed. Then it will be approved, it will turn out to be GSTR2. A series of events they have decided, but unfortunately for various reasons, it hasn't come into life, the GSTR2. But this particular GSTR2 is the lifeline for not just your clause 44, for many other clauses of 3CD as well. So I'm just, this is a dummy data. So I've just taken only one particular month of entry, a couple of entries. Now, when we see this particular, this thing, I mean, the GSTR2, the majority of the information in terms of at least coming to the clause, the last clause where the payment part will be considered reconciling in terms of ITC, what we claim, relating to other registered entities, that is clause 5, that will be coming from your so-called GSTR2, because the way we compile this taxable amount, the tax amount and the ITC, and whether it is properly reconciled, based on only the information will be gathered into that. Now, let's say if I have to get into that, initially, as we know, it's a profit and loss. So I've just taken up this small example of profit and loss. So I'll be exporting. I believe it shouldn't be any difficult task for you if I have to export a profit and loss. This is regular mechanism of Alt-E, what we use, where I have to export this particular thing. Of course, the only thing is that it may not be getting in a detailed columnar way. So if I have to get into that, then I have to go to the group, then click on the ledger wise, where I have to extract all the ledgers being part of that particular direct expenses. So at the most, we'll have purchases, direct expenses, and indirect expenses. Those are the three groups majorly we'll consider. And once we have exported, going with the regular Alt-E mechanism where we export those. So I'll be dumping, first of all, initially the profit and loss to understand what kind of expenditure heads are coming into that. Then thereon, you'll be excluding those expenditure which are provisional, like provision on bad debts or depreciation, or for that matter, even partners related remuneration, or so and so, which of course guidance note also has covered what are to be excluded from that particular total expenditure definition, which will not form part of total expenditure definition by virtue of definition in GST. Now, once I have done that, I'll be, as we have seen, each of the group part will be again exporting the group part by using the regular Alt-E mechanism only. So that will be, you have your purchase accounts, then you have your direct expenses, then you have your regular indirect expenses. Okay. Now, this is the summary as per the profit and loss expenditure. Then if I have to reconcile this particular information, I need to, because as a part of tax audit, we also need to ensure that the grouping part or some expenditure is not wrongly classified to avoid the disallowances kind of thing. So that's one more challenge. What you might say, for example, just to give an example, not exactly referring to that, say a staff has traveled to some place and he has incurred certain expenditure on travel and stay, and he has put his reimbursement bills, and those bills are paid to the staff. So there might be a litigation saying that the supplier is staff, not the outside vendor, because the staff has taken the services. So I might be exempting those things in as part of total expenditure, because that will not form part of my expenditure to the direct GST vendor, that is being reimbursed to the staff. Now, on the face of it, it looks pretty good, but if that is taken as a lacuna and they try to get those kind of expenditure in the shadow of those reimbursements, and unless I get into the watching part, unless I get into the ITC, the GSTR 2A, where if the client would have captured the company name, because as we all know, staff sometimes when they request for GST, they immediately share the GST of the company. So if that guy is uploading into the GSTR 2A, the litigation will be, in our books, we'll be showing it as a reimbursement paid to the staff, and GSTR 2A shows as if it is a sale to the client. And then those things, it becomes little sensitive, and that's where, unless I do reconciliation of those challenging, just conclude directly based on the face of profit and loss. So that is where we use a couple of reconciliation by regularly using. Say, for example, if I have to extract all the information, so I've just I'll be sharing this particular queries also. Otherwise, you can browse to Tally Help, where you have queries where you can query. Say, for example, if I have to generate from the Tally certain information, so I'll be, most of the time people use connectivity with ODBC, where they in Excel they go to that particular Excel and they go to data and they say they connect it with ODBC, and they identify the ODBC server, where again have various steps to enable the. But that is a cumbersome process, because sometimes it might connect or may not connect. So technically, it depends on the way the Windows version you use, and also the way your security is enabled. This might work or this may not work. Okay. So better is you can actually extract the relevant data from Tally itself by using a select. Say, for example, I want to select all names from ledger. Ledgers are, I just need to type the dollar name, the kind of labels what we have to use, that is also published by Tally in the website in Tally Help. So I just need to browse through that particular, let's say I want to find out to which group it pertains to. I might say again, Control N, will the notepad, or where you have these commands also. I'll say select name, comma, ledger, that I'll get to see what it is falling into, the ledger is falling into. So this way, I can directly extract the relevant data from the Tally to identify the masters of each ledger. I mean, which group it is there. Then to go make it further, I might request the GST type of the GST number also. Okay. Remember this party. It is party GST. So I might just copy this and come back over here. And at the end, I can just add one more party GST from ledger. Okay, so we'll get to see that for a given particular ledger, if it is a part that the GST in, as is mentioned, if it is mentioned, then again we have our own ways of identifying whether it is intrastate or interstate, so and so. Then voice is breaking. Okay, let me just shift to other connection. Yeah, hope now it is fine. I've just shifted the router connection. Just tell me, you might, a couple of glitches might be there that we can using the technology. So kindly keep posting. I believe the voice is clear now.
Yes, it is clear. Please proceed, sir.
Thank you. So I'll share that notepad. I'll be sharing that. Okay. Now, as I was mentioning about, I have listed a couple of commands which you can use in terms of, like, say, I want to browse through those where there is an expenses as part of the ledger. So I just want to extract those particular, like, say, for example, I'm saying select name, from purchases where this is, I can use this particular command. Okay, I just say Control N, Control V, where we don't require data. So I might say, I think that's an issue. Because there is again space and all, but anyway, let's not get into. I'll share that notepad. That should be sufficient. Just have a. It's just a regular way of placing the command. Nothing much typical about it. Just using control and kind of thing. Okay. So, but why we are doing this is, let's say, for once I've done that, I need to identify whether the index expenses, whatever it is there, it is falling into the proper group, because on the face of P&L, we'll see the grouping, subgrouping kind of thing. Then again, within that, I am interested in identifying those so and so, so and so. Now, again, there is other way of extraction once I have done that, because as the Premna sir was referring to Supreme Court judgment in terms of expert and kind of thing. And though I might say that I am expert in accounting or auditing, not in technology, but I can't say so considering the kind of data availability what we have, so and so. So I need to find out ways of reconciling. I need to find out ways of identifying what best I can use out of the data in terms of reconciling the relevant information. So here, once I've extracted that particular using a dollar name or dollar parent, whatever is there, I'll be getting all this information to just give a detailed structure of that particular data. So something it looks like you can get as much information as the structure speaks about. Okay. Now, once I've done that, I'll be probably to have what this particular ledger is falling into the regular VLOOKUP, XLOOKUP, the regular lookup function what we're using to identify to which group it falls into based on the parent export what we have done. Okay, so that I'll ensure that the ledger-wise classification or group-wise classification is nowhere misleading to ensure. Let's say, for example, here there is a labor contract wages. If you can see the screen, labor contract wages, which is dumped under salaries, wages, and bonus. Okay. So it might be a contract where obviously the term itself is speaking about contract, but if I go purely by the grouping, because here also we don't see the salaries, it somewhere says operating in general expenses within our personal expenses for that matter. But we feel comfortable by just looking at the personal expenses may not be so. I probably have to go into that particular ledger to identify whether it is really those kind of. So once I have done the mapping of those with the parent, I'll get to see first of all, what is the ledger? Second, under which group it is falling into. If that is falling into that particular group, whether the relevant GST or any, like say, if I'm speaking about indirect expenses, especially the labor contract, if I'm seeing that that is payment is made to a particular vendor, that vendor, whether is having, GST registration, if so, whether it is intrastate or interstate, and what kind of split I have to get into that. Okay. So this is the basic level of query what we can do. Second thing is, you have, of course, the way you want to get a closing balance kind of thing, or not command kind of thing. Okay, I'm only worried if I try using this, if Tally crashes, it will be wasting time. Anyway, we'll keep it for the end, just to give a fair idea. Rather than ODBC connectivity with the Excel, this is the best way, and this is not data which is hidden or somewhere. It's publicly available in the Tally Help, where you click for SQL query, the patch will be SQL query, and there you have all these commands. Okay. Now, the other aspect is, as I was saying, the terms of the configuration, because most of the time you would have seen once you have exported, once you have done with the GSTR2, this particular point, invoices with mismatch information, that is a pain. Because most of the time, whether the configuration is not done, let's say I'll expand this up to 21 to 22. Okay, this is of course properly reconciled. But if I go to the other tally and use the same, now it says uncertain transactions, corrections needed around 17 transactions. So unless going to that, there is a mismatch of nature of transaction, place of supply. So that means somewhere this is not properly configured. Like if I go to that particular ledger using control entry, somewhere it is not properly configured. Okay, so somewhere most of the time we concentrate on configuring the GSTN number, but I've seen state being ignored. I mean, not applicable kind of thing. So every aspect has to be covered. Just to summarize, going back to the same guidance note, what institute has issued, they have also given the minimum information what is required for compiling. You have the head, the name of the entity, the GSTN number, of course, the amount relevant, whatever is debited kind of thing. Apart from that, if I have to generate from the tally, you need to have the nature of the transaction. That is whether it is purchase taxable, purchase exempted, or purchase nil rate. So you need to have the nature of the transaction. Of course, the state and the GSTN number. And what others are mandatory is the invoice number and the invoice date. Here, for some reason, while we enter the particular, we capture it as a reference number. Okay. And second thing is we capture it as probably a JV kind of thing rather than a proper purchase voucher or proper sales. Instead of sales voucher, I might be passing a JV kind of thing. And secondly, if I'm not capturing the respective taxation heads, this is one more important aspect you have to remember. Like say, if I go to balance sheet, if I'm not considering, let's say, if I speak about ITC, people capture it in under part of current assets. Okay. Then if it is GST payable, they might consider it as outstanding liabilities or current liabilities. Every aspect of GST has to pass through your duties and taxes. Then only tally will be in a position to capture that particular information. Because if I'm trying to correct any of those transactions, let's say I'll take up one particular transaction. This is incomplete, of course. This being dummy, I've just captured only a couple of. So if I'm clicking into these invoices with mismatch information, the two crucial aspects it asks is the invoice number and the invoice date. Okay, so those two. Why I'm suggesting this is if you can spend time in configuring tally, and this itself is your clause 5 in your table, whatever you have to fill, because otherwise very few transactions we might have from composite dealers or exempted kind of thing. In this place, very important, this is where it will be comparing with your ITC claim. Okay, so this part majorly can be generated from your GSTR2 provided you have properly configured. And I'm just showing another tally which is in fact properly tally captured. Like say if I go to this particular GSTR2 of the entire year, so here all the invoices are ready for filing return. Now once I have done that, I just need to export it. I'll be using Alt key. While using the export option, again you will have various ways. Other one, the regular others will be where it captures the entire information in various spreadsheets. But if you go with the regular export, I'll say e-return based, where I want it in Excel, and I'll just say send it. No advantage of this, of course, this is dealing with only normal purchases, so you may not have other information, but I'm just showing a preview. Like this particular way of export, it deals with the summary of HSN, it deals with any reversal of ITC, it deals with composition, nil rated and exempted. So if you have properly done that, you just need to use RKE mechanism where you have done your GSTR2 and all the required information, whatever is to be presented in 3C is very much there. So if the tally is not properly configured and I'm trying to do this in Excel, then somewhere I'm getting into the accounting role. Not only that, I'm also compromising my audit quality and all. So ensure that at least the relevant configuration is properly done before you start with. Otherwise, all the information what has to be provided, then it has to be provided in Excel part from the client side. Okay. So this is what, if you have properly configured, all the information will be generated in a required format, and this itself should be sufficient for as an audit evidence to compile your class 4 of 3C. Okay, that is one aspect. Second is this is of course tally structure we have already seen. Now let's assume that a scenario where the client has not properly configured, and or for that matter, you are given with an opportunity to provide a configuration services, accounting configuration services, where it can take it. Now let's assume a normal debit credit entries are passed, and everything is dumped into either creditors or regular JVs kind of thing. No GST configuration or no GST taxation has been enabled. So what best way is, as I was mentioning in the beginning also, I'm not endorsing any of the tools, but I'm sharing a couple of ways. There might be hundreds of such tools. I'll be sharing a couple of those tools. So I'm just using this one of this thing. Why I'm supporting this particular tool. There is a company called Tallygraphs from Chennai, I believe. But the beauty of this is I'm paying only 99 rupees for this, 100 rupees per month, where I can dump unlimited kind of company. There is no limit of company. So what this gives is, it gives me various charts of this thing. I believe you're already logged in somewhere. 1 second. Okay, let's assume that you are not so good in exporting, you are not so good in getting the data using select command and all. So I just keep my tally open. I keep my tally open. I keep my Tallygraph open. I just refresh it so that the data, whatever I'm trying to import, that it gets synced into this particular thing. Once I get synced into this, I get all the information, whatever. Say, for example, in terms of expenses, I want the breakdown, especially I want to concentrate on, okay, it's logged in. I'll just log in. Just give me a minute. Yeah. So here, if I have to get information about expenses breakdown, as especially I'm saying about which are to be excluded. Okay, you might say the salary relevant information is to be excluded and all. Or for that matter, the more comfortable place where I can get the complete data is, of course, our daybook. Okay, so there is this option. Usually what we do in daybook, I go to the daybook. I use Alt F12, where I Alt F2, I open from 1st April to 31st of March, and there might be hundreds of thousands of transactions. I say Alt E, it will take its sweet time, and sometimes depending on my cache memory, the tally might also crash. Okay, so these tools like this, as I was saying, I'm not promoting or supporting any of this. There are hundreds of such tools. So these tools help us to get the data quicker. If I have to connect with the tally and get the relevant transaction, that makes my job. So I just need to probably say, I want to analyze the daybook, get the extract of daybook. I just use this daybook analysis, and whatever I have to export, I can just export into Excel, and thereby in couple of seconds, I get my daybook analysis report generated. And the beauty of this particular daybook analysis, it gets all the transactions of your daybook and whatever is required in terms of whether the ledger name or the party name, and the transactions, of course, including the narration. If you want, you can enable the narration. So that way you're getting your entire data at one go without much of effort than using any of the SQL commands or trying to export the data kind of thing. Okay, so that is one tool which you can use. So just to display, as I was saying, there are many such. Okay, I just probably, if I want to get accounts related, a group by summary, I can get. So I can export the relevant information for whatever reason. Or if I have to have a profit and loss also with the proper summary of those information, where exactly each of the accounts are going, or if I want a detailed kind of export report and all. Okay, and beauty of this is you can even get into Excel part, or you want to have it in a PDF presentation part, you can have that PDF presentation part. And more than anything, why I'm fascinated with this is mobile enabled as well. I mean, the same dashboards what we are seeing, the same reports what we are exporting in desktop, that is also giving in my mobile as well. So it's like I'll instruct my staff to just switch on the system and connect the tally graph. I can see in my mobile the analysis, and of course the rest of all analysis and all. Anyway, we Excel, I mean, Tally also has, but still you can even use these kind of analysis, any kind of analysis or graphs for that matter. We have certain reports also, exception reports, financial statements, or kind of ratio analysis. The regular negative stock and all. Okay. Anyway, so and this why I can go in a crude way where I use select command of Tally, export into Excel, or probably I can use this thing. And definitely these are things which requires little investment, but it's worth. Okay. Now coming to once I have done that, we thought of why we are trying to export this is. We thought the customer has not properly configured. It's just a minimal configuration he has done. But if I have to get into Tally and start configuring each of the ledger, including vendors, creditors, expenses, balance sheet items, it might take more time, because we are speaking about hundreds of ledgers in that. So best way is identify a way to export the day book or the transactions as a dump. Once you have that, I have one more, I'll be using one more tool. Of course, here also again, you have various ways of using that import facility. What import? Let's say GSTR 2A is there. GSTR 2A, of course, now you are getting in Excel. And I want to dump that Excel GSTR 2A directly into Tally, so that I don't want to risk capturing any of the wrong GST numbers of the party. Or I have a bank statement provided by a client in Excel format, or whatever it may be. I'll show you another way of exporting the PDF related to the Excel also, even if he has given in a PDF kind of format. So I'll be getting the Excel format of the respective bank statement, or I just have the export, what the day book, what we have exported from this particular, any of those applications, and we have the data ready, and I want to import into a Tally in such a way that everything is properly configured. There also we have a solution. I'm just sharing another such tool. Many windows are open, so I'm just a little confused. Yeah. So this again I've been using for quite a long time. Easy Auto 4. This is, I believe, a couple of people might be also using this. A Jaipur-based company supported by Chartered Accountants, again, team of Chartered Accountants. So once I've exported, I just need to import the respective day book where I can use the configuration. Okay, once I use the template, let me just use the template. So here, whatever day book I have exported, I'll just use this, wherein this time I properly configure everything. I mean, whether it is grouping, whether it is GSTN number, whether it is party, the same day book what we have exported, I'll copy paste into this particular tool, Excel. I do the proper configuration, then I'll simply export this back to Tally. This particular sheet, once I click on, obviously, it will be generating a Tally tool where it can be directly connected with the Tally and import back the entire day book with a properly configured kind of data. Now, again, as I was saying, cost, definitely when you look for these kind of tools, I mean, just to give a fair idea, I think this is, they're charging 4,000 per annum, if I'm correct. So end to end, probably if I have to invest various such tools, one tool I was using is Nitro PDF. There is a particular tool called Nitro PDF, which exports any kind of PDF into a proper tabular format. So end to end, even if I put all these aggregate, the budget might be roughly around 15,000 at the most to 20,000. But I'm saying it's worth in terms of this tax audit or in terms of the GST, where it will be very handy. And also will be very accurate because we are having control on the data directly before we get into the accounting package, provided I'm saying not as an auditor rule, as an accounting configuration. Okay, so this is one such tool where you can import the data into the particular tally. This thing. Let me. I don't want to give demo of this thing. As I was saying, a fair idea. You have various such tools available in the market. Okay. Now, another tool. I'm not sure whether Prerna sir has covered that or not. Sir, Prerna sir. There was one another CompuLearn, if I'm correct, where it was also connecting with the respective portals of GST and TDS and trying to import the information or extract the information from the relevant tally accounting package, so and so. Now, let me just see if anything I missed before we move further. Okay. And another aspect is once we have done this, I might have to compare this with the respective ledgers. I mean, I was saying, just to take an example, GST 3B will be having in a PDF format, and I want to export this into a proper Excel format, or for that matter, I might have another any kind of for GST 2A nowadays they are getting in proper Excel only. So if I have to get that particular information into different this thing, there is one tool called Nitro PDF, just to show, not to spend much time on that. So the beauty of this Nitro PDF is, irrespective of it is digitally signed or a little secured bank statement also. Somehow, kind of because of the differences of the script, what they use in terms of Adobe and this particular. And just to give a little technical idea, sometimes you might come across a situation where you're trying to export a PDF file into Excel, and you see that all the respective columns are not properly aligned. I mean, it might be using hundreds and thousands of columns. And it might be once you expand it, it will become very difficult for you to consolidate those things. The reason behind that is if it is generated from the Excel, Microsoft Excel has its own version of PDF, that is XPS. So if it is being generated from the regular Excel, the version, I mean, being an XPS, it will be easy for me to import into the Excel as well. If the PDF is created from the Excel itself, that will be done by using this XPS document. But if I'm doing this with any other ERP, so that being directly using the PDF script, so somewhere if you are trying to import, then you might find it difficult. So there might be open tools like ilovepdf.com or those kind of open tools might be much more helpful than regular Nitro PDF kind of thing. Okay. Now, one aspect I want to cover before we take up question and answers. GSTR 2A, as of now, at least at the time of class 44, may not be so important, but definitely it might be playing important role if I have to cover the other clauses of 3SCD, or to certain extent to reconcile with clause 5 of column 5 of your class 44. Somewhere you might have to reconcile this, whether it is properly matching with the ITC, uploaded in the website, that is vendor, whatever vendor is uploaded, and whether it is eligibly, legally claimable kind of thing. So there, I might have to have various 2As. The problem with this particular GSTR 2A is you will be able to generate this GSTR 2A, but only in monthly format, not as a consolidated for the entire year. So I'll just share a simple tip in terms of trying to get a consolidated kind of thing before we take up the question. So here, these are the multiple files which we have imported. So what we can do is I can just open up a normal Excel. Let's say I'll just open up a new Excel, and I'll try to connect with the entire folder of those GST, whatever it said. Now, the beauty of this GSTR 2 is everything is properly fixed in terms of delimitation, in terms of which sheet captures what information, like B2B or credit notes or whatever. So because they are in every same schema, I can just use that entire folder. Let's say I want to combine the entire thing. So I can use this from folder kind of thing, wherein I try to connect with the entire folder and see that I'll get the entire information captured. So I'll try to combine and load or transform or whatever. Of course, this part I believe Seren is going to cover tomorrow when it comes to Power Query kind of aspect, or what additional tools you can use. So if I have to combine, let's say the B2B sheet, or for that matter, and whatever sheets kind of thing, I'll just say okay, and I'll be loading back to the Excel. Okay, so each of the particular column, B2B, you have multiple tables, B2A, you have multiple tables. So I'll be expanding this. As I said, I'll not get into technical aspect because Seren is going to cover anyway, but I can show you the final, once we dump this entire thing as a consolidated kind of information. For each of the particular sheet, you'll be having all the multiple sheets combined. So before you get into this tip, sorry for that, I forgot to mention. Before you get into that, you ensure that the respective sheets are refined in terms of the respective column headings are properly. Let's say, for example, here, I don't want these duplicate values to be repeating. I don't want these blanks to be there. So what simply we can do is I can just use a regular, of course, this part is being covered in the bank audit videos also. You can just have a visit that. So I can just apply a filter wherein I'll enable only the rate part so that I can get rid of the other aspect. So if I have to get this chunk, I can use Control minus to get rid of chunk, and what we get is a refined data without spaces or without duplication in terms of subtotal. This is the first step. What you have to ensure that every sheet is properly cleaned, wherein the data is there. And then once you have done with that, then you can go with the regular data, which of course Seren is going to cover in terms of importing the data or connecting the data with various multiple sheets kind of thing. Okay. So more or less in terms of technology part, because as I said, rightly Chairman sir was also mentioning that unless it's more proper workshop wherein you are also hand in hand practicing with us, then only you can have a feel about it. But before I conclude, let me share the notepad so that I'm sharing in the Zoom chat only. So those who are accessing through laptop, they can view this in the chat. So if others haven't got, probably Branch can circulate with that. So there you have multiple commands which you can use to extract data directly from the tally. So you have any questions we can take? Premna sir, you want to add something? I was calling upon like the other application, what you use, Computax or something, like if in case you want to show, or we can take up directly questions.
Yes, yes. Yes.
Can you, there is a query, can you please rename the Excel import tool? Acha, you want to the name, I'll just mention here. Yeah, I've just mentioned in the chat area. You can have, this is the import tool. And the other one is the analytics and export related tool. Of course, not to endorse anything, I'm just sharing the way we use. So I'll stop sharing. Premna sir, let's take up questions.
Yes. So we were talking about, I think, thank you, Vijay, for elaborated presentation on these issues. What are the audit tools should be used for tax audit? Tally itself is a big audit tool. They are capturing most of the information in cash payments and all. You can able to get it. You know, if you can define, then Tally has a very good audit features. Tally itself is enough for how a student or a staff or a member will understand this session. I don't know whether it's a comment or what you're trying to say. Yes, in 2 hours of time, a limited hour of time, I don't think it is possible to convince everyone. Wherever technology is there, it has to be practiced under a guidance. Only then any student or a member who is listening for the first time can capture it. I don't think this 2-hour session is meant for the new people who doesn't even understand the keyboard. So it has to be hand-holded. Only then you can understand. But for those who have certain keyboard skills, the session will take him to the next level. Yeah, another question: what are the checks and balances? Checks and balances or reconciliations only with normal internal controls. You need to put on, like totals, all those controls you need to have. How the data extracted was useful for class 44 was not.
I'll share my view, probably then you can add, sir. Basically, data extraction is the responsibility of the management. I mean, we are not going to get into those kind of, because once we say that we are extracting data, we evaluate the data, we verify the data, we validate the data. So what we are trying to demonstrate is, if the client has provided the data, I need to see that that is in a proper format. So then the only way is to see the configuration of the relevant ERP and see that whether the controls what are to be required while generating the data is enabled. If the controls are not there, if the configuration is not there, then there is every chance that I'm taking a risk, because again, I can't go back to perform a detailed transaction level GST audit to identify whether it is exempted or composition, or I can't validate each and every GST number. I'm satisfied that there is a control in the configuration or accounting this thing, then I'm at least having I can place some trust on the data provided. So we are trying to, the way we are trying to extract the data to check whether the control configuration is properly done. If I'm seeing that GSTN is not captured in various ledgers, or if I'm seeing that the grouping of ledgers is not properly done as per the tally tree, and that's where I might get into the disclaimer point what institute was suggesting, or for that matter, if I have to qualify also. So that is what we are trying to do, because as an auditor, I'm trying to verify or validate the information provided by the client. I'm not trying to extract and perform the accounting role per se, because 3CD is purely our weapon. So I can't just ensure that I can't take the safety of the client by probably putting myself in this. So that's what we are trying to demonstrate, to validate or check the controls of the accounting. So please, you can add up, sir.
Yes, as we said, my opening remarks only, I made it very clear. Last minute, 30th September, last week of September, you come for an audit, and then class 44 is not possible. So you only have to go for a disclaimer. Disclaimer is dangerous. Okay. So how one of the member was saying the data extracted, how it is useful for class 44. Let me just share again what Vijay Srinivas sir has said. Yes. So here we have seen total expenditure. Vijay Srinivas sir has demonstrated it to dump it. And after that, now relate that expenditure to the entities which are listed and not registered and not registered. So Vijay Srinivas sir has demonstrated for all those party wise, and on one side you have an expenditure, on the other side you have a party. So if it is cash or bank, then you have to see whether cash or bank on the other side, is it for a normal small expenditure, then you can straight away take it into the unregistered. And if it is a sufficiently big amount, then you know very well, you will have a party accounting in the tally. When you have a party accounting linked to the expenditure, and sir has already demonstrated linking the expenditure to the party in the day book. Now, once you have a day book with a party, and the same demonstration also taken you to whether how to capture the GSTN number. Now, if the client or the chartered accountant who is rendering the GST, who is rendering accounting services, is not capturing the GST information, whose fault is it? So the session will not be of any use. And that is the reason why sir has demonstrated. You take the 2A, dump it into the Excel. From Excel, you port it back into the tally again. You can create a new a login or a new company in tally. With 2A, you upload it. One, you upload it again. Cash book or a bank book from the bank of PDF, you export it back and then you redo it, or whatever part information you already have it in the tally, you take it out, and that's what is demonstrated. Make the corrections and then bring it back into the tally and make and there are automatic tools to track it. Again, please don't understand, my initial remarks itself is very clear that this demonstration is not like a switch where a light or a fan will glow automatically. That's not possible. Don't expect the technologies to work like when you put on a fan or a switch, an AC will go up, and like that it is not possible, because digital, it is spread across, the data is spread across. We need to bring all those things into one place. There is no audit tool which can do this. Only thing is, since the digits are available, digital data is available, bits and pieces in multiple corners, you can bring it into a particular shape and then put it either into a tally or put it either into a tally back, where the other whether other reports are already customized. With that, we can able to do this. So that is the reason, again, I say this last moment 44 AD, 44 clause will not work, and you only have to disclaim and get a bad name from the either for the client or for the profession. Only that is the only way out. Okay, having said that, they were asking for any audit tools. I say tally itself is a tool for you can use it properly. For the tally to support, just now we have seen you can export out and clean it and then bring it back, and then make furthermore adjustments into it. But please remember what happens if a disclaimer is given. What happens if a disclaimer is given? Please understand the section 35 of GST Act. Section 35 of GST Act says they have to maintain records, shall keep production, manufacturing of goods, and then all this input availed, output, such other particulars as may be prescribed. This is a government document. Goods and services import, supplies attracting payment of tax on reverse charge along with the relevant documents, including invoices and so on, so on, so on, so on. Then supplies involving with the registered with their addresses and so on and so on. All these things has to be maintained, section 35. If section 35 is complied, clause 44 is possible. I repeat again, section 35 of GST or whatever act is complied, read with the rules is complied, clause 44 is complied. Now, whether this is manual, it also talks about electronic records. Electronic records. So now, most of the places it is electronic records. Now come back, like majority of the places wherever I go, wherever we discuss, you also know, majority of the participants also know that everyone has decided to give a disclaimer. Most of them, like I'm just using a general remark of everyone. Generally, people have decided to give, the members have decided to give a disclaimer. So disclaimer means what? Disclaimer is giving a hint that section 35 read with the rules of 56 or 57, 57, 58 of GST, CGST rules with respect to the accounts and record, and section 35 is not complied with, is what is certified by a professional chartered accountant who is regarded as an expert. And this is what is the implication that we are giving to the government. And we have to think whether we can go to such an extent of commenting. So hence, this is last time in the sense that we are in the flag end of tax audit. And there are also many young chartered accountants who are looking for opportunities. Many young chartered accountants are looking for opportunities, and at the same time, there is a huge shortage of article students. I've started my presentation stating that let us all come together and create a market for each other. So what I say is, let us pool together. Let us take the surplus from the young chartered accountants who are tech savvy. Let us help them. And Vijay Srinivas sir is there. We are there. Sharon is there. We are all there to help and handhold. Considering all those confidentiality, all those issues considering, we are there to handhold in case of necessity, in case of training, one-to-one or whatever it is, in case of data dumping, data cleaning, whatever it is, if not on commercial basis, on helping the members to render their services positively. So this is what it is. Is there any other thing we can discuss? Yes, sir. This is a small topic, but a huge impact.
So any doubts, relevant kind of thing, of course, not to in terms of subject, because I'm not a subject expert. Maybe Prerna sir can answer, but couple of aspects in terms of tally, also not just P&L, that capital expenditure part, or the way it captures in capital work in progress kind of thing. Those are the things. As I said, everything can be done provided the configuration of accounting is properly there. If it is not there, we have just seen a way where we can perform that configuration, and of course it might require extra charge or might get into an accounting configuration role kind of thing, but definitely it's better than giving a disclaimer and putting the client into risk. So any kind of issues, doubts and all? Ma'am, I think you will be posing the questions at the end, or how it will in the middle?
No, sir, actually, you mean these MCQs?
Yes, sir.
Sir, MCQs are to be answered by the participant themselves in the DLH portal, sir.
Acha, okay. Okay.
So, in fact, actually, as of now, I don't think it is mandatory to get CPR, but this DLH is at a nascent stage.
Okay.
In the coming days, they are planning that they have to log in through DLH portal, and the time for which they are present in the meeting will also be counted.
Okay.
After that, they have to answer the MCQs, and if they pass the MCQs and attend the required number of time online, then only they will be awarded automatically CP credit by DLH.
Okay. Right move. Very much right move.
So not all parameters are made mandatory as of now, sir.
Okay, okay,
So they have started,
okay.
but MCQs will be answered by themselves in their DLH login.
Okay, great.
Sir, one more question in the chat box. The discussion.
Yeah.
See, right question, Minal. Why we are discussing on the tally is one aspect is I believe you know that 80% of the accounting, for that matter, 80% of the SME segments they are depending on this particular package, and though it is having a quality of ERP, because of the improper configuration, it is losing its charm and it also not helping out auditors in a big way. But when it comes to accounting like Oracle or SAP or all those things, it will not allow you to even pass voucher unless it goes through the tree of ERP. I mean, module wise or even to create a particular ID of an account, it has to pass through all those phases. And there are controls before a transaction is passed with the proper controls. So I can at least, if it is SAP, someone buying SAP, putting certain amount, so I am assured that at least the minimum configuration has been taken care, because they don't customize, because the customization cost of SAP is much more costlier than the product. So at least I have that assurance that minimum configuration is being taken care. So, but being these tally kind of accounting packages, majority usage is there, but and also there is very much chances of not properly configuration. I mean, I believe at least how many of the firms they use tally, they get into first perform a configuration audit before they get into transaction audit. How many of them go through the entire tally structure to see that there is properly configured before we dump the trial balance? Very few. I don't know whether how many of the you people do. Is it not? So we are discussing on that aspect where we deal with the unstructured more. If we are dealing with the unstructured more, structured anyway, it shouldn't be any problem. It will find out a way. I mean, we don't need to worry about the structure. We are in a market where it is more unstructured. That's where we are trying to identify a ways, considering the short period what we have, how best I can use these tools to come out with my opinion in class 44.
Yes, to answer where in case of an ERP environment, you want to capture this information. Any information to be captured in the ERPs has to go with a commands or code, T code. If you talk about SAP, it is a T code. You don't have a drill down reports in ERPs because of the confidentiality, integrity of data and all. So what we need, if you talk about a system, then we need to see what kind of reports are being generated. So can you generate a purchase register? Can you generate a service register? So if the services are not captured as a purchase order processes, like PO, tender processing, PO processing, and then GRN, GIR, all those processings are there for goods. But if that process is not there for service orders, then this kind of analysis will be of a tougher thing again. So what we need to do in case of ERPs is look at the purchase registers, and from the purchase register, if you can classify the purchase registers for each item of the purchase, can you link that purchases to the P&L expenditure heads? Purchases of goods and then linking it to the P&L, there will be very limited. But it is a service orders accounting system, service order report. If it is not generated, then that's a big challenge in that. Yes, SAP gives that configuration, but if it is not configured again by the SAP, then that is again a big challenge. But what I say is, if you can dump the general ledger, if you can dump the general ledgers, which has, and that general ledger has a party names, and if that party names go back reverse and then get the GSTN number of that party name. Once you have a GSTN number, they are all registered. If GSTN number is not captured, even though it is a GSTN, then that is again another big issue. So what we are talking again and again is configuration, configuration, and configuration. So GST itself is a technology tax. GST is called as a technology tax. And for a technology tax, you are talking about trying to carry out the audit without using a technology. Let me share it in a very jovial manner, if not seriously. Yeah, this is how we are looking at. On one side, we the chartered accountants, sorry to say, on one side, we the chartered accountants are coming with bows and arrows. On the other side, the regulators are with full arms and ammunitions. And under this situation, we are talking about GST audit. I'm sorry, I think I've shared it. Yeah. So under this situations, we are carrying out the, I think we should be able to understand this. Yes, sir. Any other? Probably the some of the members have come with an expectation that with one button, the class 44 will be out as a printout. Probably that is what is the expectation. I think the India has progressed very well in launching 104 satellites with one rocket. And we, the chartered accountants, have not progressed to such an extent where with one click of button with an unorganized data, class 44 will be ready. If such is a case, there will not be any audit in India because the government itself will do it.
And maybe Insured is also coming out with, that's what at least I've heard, that ERP, and they're going to come with the big time support to the SME segment in terms of coming out with the ERP accounting package. So let's see how it goes down the line.
Yeah.
Prasanna sir is also putting hard work to get make it happen.
So the thing is, for large scale companies, they will be having ERP, SAPs, etc. Sir. But when it comes to MSME clients, what is happening is most of them will engage only part-time accountants.
Yes.
Even a person doing a turnover of 10 crores or 15 crores, those type of SSCs are also engaging part-time accountants. Now, when you come to part-time accountants, even if they are using Tally, the parameter setting is minimal.
Sir, you are talking about MSME part-time accountants. We are auditing one government company. I don't want to name it. The transactions have already been done. Now that company is passing generally, it's passing the entries, one bulk entry for 1 month in the Tally. Now you can understand what kind of the government company, with crores of turnover. And that's the way in which it has been done. Probably we have to change. It is not the other side because we are accommodating, they are taking it light. If we all, that's what my opening remark, if we all can stand together, like big fours, they all stand together. One big four, they all fight, at least hundreds of chartered accountants, they are tied up to one brand. Thousands of chartered accountants, they are tied up to big four, big five. We, the MSME, small and medium chartered accountants, we are not tied up to any platform. We are exposing ourselves, and market is exploiting our weakness. So the only way out is we all have to stand together.
Yes, sir. Yes. Now that 44 is made mandatory, at least now we have to take care that the parameter setting is done at least to a respectable extent.
Yes.
So that the data extraction will become easier for us to report this class 44.
Yes, sir. And that is possible, sir. That is possible. We can do it.
Yes.
With so many tools available. 1 year it will be tough. From the other year onwards, it is easy. We can charge for it.
Yes. So friends, I think we have come to an end of this session. if you have anyone has any more queries, you please type in your chat box, or I will do one thing. I will enable so that you will be able to unmute yourself. Now you can unmute yourself, and if anyone want to pose any query, you are most welcome. Right. Sir, Premnath sir and Vijay sir, thank you very much. Actually, you are always supporting Vijayawada branch. Whenever this bank audit season comes, or whenever tax audit season comes, you are always supporting us. So thank you very much for both of you for making time. That too on September 16th, when you are busy with your all works. Madam, a word of appreciation from you to conclude. Please unmute and speak, madam.
Thank you, Premnath sir. As Kishore sir said, for every tax audit, bank audit season, for physical CPA seminar, you will be the one of the speaker. And thank you, Vijay sir. And you spoke in bank audit student seminar also. And your presentation is really very useful, sir. As you said, configuration is more and more important. For future, for every year it will be, once we said we decide, we correct it, and for every year it will be, will give the accurate information. Definitely, thank you so much. And
I would just add one point. Sorry for that. Probably branch can take lead. I mean, you have many young members in the Vijayawada branch, and you have many. Maybe after this tax audit, you can invite whoever is interested to create a template of Tally in configuring these kind of things. So probably they are welcome. And once you have configured template, that can be circulated, and members can use the template to import the data. So maybe that can voluntary service also we can take up.
Definitely, sir. Definitely.
Yes, friends, may I also tell you that this session is live telecasted on YouTube, and it will be available for replay any number of times on Vijayawada branch YouTube channel. May I request you to take this opportunity, and also what Vijay sir has demonstrated may not get acquainted at one shot by listening one time. So if you want to practice what sir has done, you can definitely go to the Vijayawada branch YouTube channel and replay that, so that it will be useful for you. So friends, thank you all of you for participating, and also I thank Premnath sir and Vijay sir once again. So good night. We'll sign off for now and meet you in another session. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you very much. Thank you all.